Welcome to Cody in the Cinema. Today, I'm discussing one of the most emotionally pure, raw, beautiful films I've seen in a long time. A film I was so excited about that I watched it and I immediately had to come in here and record my thoughts. This is called A Tree Grows in Brooklyn. Elia Kazan directing, of course, Elia Kazan with a great filmography behind him. And I have read the book, and this is one of my favorites I've ever read. You can kind of tell even that someone else loved it because I bought it used. Sort of been a little bit beat up there. Betty Smith, what a book, what a film. For a movie that is this old, so this is 1945, every performance in this film is perfect. I'm not exaggerating. I think every performance in this film is perfect. And if you haven't heard of it, or you don't know what this is about, this is a book about a young girl and a family living in New York City, and they are, they're in Brooklyn, and they're in these small apartments, and they're just trying to get by. And there's a tension between the mother and the father because the father, for all of his good intentions and his good heart, he's kind of making mistakes, and he has a problem sometimes with alcohol. And there's this rift that's occurred in the family. And we don't know all the reasons why. The book fleshes that out a little bit more. The movie makes certain parts more vague, but we do realize that there's something between Katie and Johnny, the father. Both in excellent performances there. The reason this film is so emotionally impactful, and the reason that I think it's going to stay with me for the rest of my movie watching life, is because of how earned each emotion is, how honest, how pure in intention, how well crafted. Every piece of it is, much like the book. You can't really take sides. Katie, the mother, on one hand, you really root for her because she's trying to stay grounded in reality and look out for the everyday practical interest of the kids. This is at odds with Johnny, who's a little bit more of a dreamer, a little bit more of, he's literally an entertainer professionally, just trying to get work. It can be at odds at times with the daughter, who, Francie is into writing, and she speaks with big ideas, and she lacks some of that practicality. But you can't fault the mom for looking out for that interest. At the same time, when you look at characters like Johnny and Francie, without that imagination and that hope and that other that they're constantly reaching for, you're left with nothing but a pile of bills and hopelessness. Much like the symbol of the whole picture, the tree that gets cut down that needs to regrow. It's a simple symbol we've seen used before, but the film does quite a bit with it. You also have a really good, fun performance from Joan Blondell, who plays the sister of Katie, who's like dead opposite, because Katie, paying bills, trying to stay level-headed. Sissy has been in a number of marriages. She's even dressed quite extravagantly compared to others, and there's this worry that someone will look down on her and the kids because of the sister, but the sister's still a good sister. She's just a little different than everybody else. And it creates all these little small, subtle conflicts, create such a believable family dynamic. And the chances are you or somebody you know has been somewhere in this family, whether you've lived in a city or not. I was struck watching this film by the overwhelming sense of community. As people walk up the stairs in the apartments, it's not like an inconvenience. Not even whenever they're moving the Christmas tree up. You know why? Because people are saying hi to each other. They're glad to see each other. There's a wonderful performance. The guy who's like the local neighborhood cop, he's friendly, he's tender, as is everybody in the film. People are well-intentioned. It almost is like an Ozu film in that way. And I'm just realizing that, kind of giving you my first reaction, thinking through it. I said emotional purity. I really don't find films, that often that make me feel this specific way. Of course, Bresson is with his films, like this one was great at that, and that's why I picked this up, because whatever reason this felt it had shades of that for me. I don't know, fairly or unfairly, but every performance, like when people cry in this movie, it feels real. I got to tell you, having watched a lot of 40s movies, sometimes that part, sometimes there'll be like uneven acting, right? There will be like that one performance, or there's a couple of performances that will really anchor all the drama. But I'm serious, like every character really delivers a touching performance. The mother, Katie, has a purpose. Johnny, who, gosh, if there's a character you've ever felt for, who has shades of anti-hero, but is mostly good, like it's Johnny. I mean, the two kids are in it. The little girl who plays Frances, like that is one of the great all-time child performances I've ever seen in a film, and I didn't even know this even had a film version until maybe a year ago. And then I had to get this version, you know, the Masters of Cinema, because it's so pretty. Didn't even know that. Didn't even know it had. I'm blown away by how emotionally affected I was by this, and I'm putting in the thumbnail like. That people from New York City should see this, because I want for folks who live in smaller communities to feel a sense of community again in a time of extreme isolation that so many of us feel. You know, this is like, you know what this is? This is the anti-Taxi Driver movie, okay? If you've seen Taxi Driver, which every New York City fan has to see that. You got to see the Scorsese's, right? But it's like the dead opposite of that picture. Beyond the performances, the reason that this movie impressed me was it's not. Sometimes I'll see a movie about a family that's in poverty and like that will get beaten to death to the point that like that's what's sad. That is where all of the emotion comes from for the filmmaker, because a filmmaker can't imagine anything else. For Kazan, the economic hardships are just kind of always there, and they're not really the central conflict. The conflict is really the interactions with the characters, the way they feel about each other, insecurities. This person bonds better with this person, and those small microaggressions that sometimes add up and cause rifts in families. But it's very believable. Like, this is a working class film. This is a film that's extremely concerned with the everyday troubles of the average American, no matter where you're from. Parts of this, having grown up in Southwest Virginia and seeing lots of families that have been, you know, basically screwed over because of greedy coal mine companies, like a lot of things that were in this movie about New Yorkers in Brooklyn applied to where I grew up. Because in the end, so many of us are just come from working class backgrounds or families. And my family wasn't anywhere near the poverty these people faced. We weren't. We were fine. But we could have been, right? Like, that was so common where I grew up. And so to see that, you know, there's something so universal and tender. And I'm going to tell you, there was about 25 minutes of this movie where I could see, like, someone sitting down and the tears just, like, right down your face, okay? It is as emotionally impactful as anything I've seen from this time period. When I was looking at this again, I was like, this had to have been a mid-60s drama. This felt like a seasoned Kazan film, like his Streetcar Named Desire, something like that. But much like his other work, Panic in the Streets, whatever you want to bring up that he's done, emotionally mature character, maturely written characters. Some of them aren't mature. But it's believable, great stuff. And I'm kind of sad that this is Region B, because somebody's not going to see this, because I think it's a little harder to get a copy in Region A. What a film. This is, and I wasn't sure about this, but I just looked on the back. Yeah, it's his debut film. Like, I'm trying to think of directors that have had this good of debut films. Not very many. So, definitely one of my favorites of his, and actually maybe even my favorite. I really love it, but I also love the book. So, I just wanted to make a little short video here because I felt like the movie was so pure that I wanted to give you a pure sincere reaction in hopes that you might go see it too and tell me what you think. If you have seen it, let me know in the comments anything you're feeling. I only touched on certain parts of this, obviously, and if you wouldn't mind clicking the like button if you've enjoyed this content, and consider subscribing as well. I put out a lot of movie content here on the channel, and we will see you next time on Cody in the Cinema.